And joining us now here on the program, pleased to have with us Dr. Justin Ransom, Senior Director of Sustainable Food Strategy at Tyson Foods, and Chad Martin, VP of Cattle Procurement at Tyson Fresh Meats. And I appreciate both of you joining us here on the program today. Thanks so much. Hope you're doing well.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you.
Well, Chad, Justin, let's dive in, and some very interesting, exciting things going on with Tyson Foods right now. We're talking about the Climate Smart Beef program. And just to start, how did Tyson Foods create the Climate Smart Beef program? What is it, and what led to the launch?
You know, we've been on a journey for quite a while in terms of being able to bring this to market. We were challenged a number of years ago to set a science-based target and a net zero target. And with beef and the emissions from the beef business being a majority of, or more than a majority of our total emissions, we really figured out we needed to have a pathway of how can we reduce emissions in our beef and beef value chain, that we can be able to talk with different stakeholders around the good things that are happening in agriculture, and how do we bring something like this to market. So everything from bringing scientists into the conversation, NGOs with EDF and TNC, Deloitte has helped us with the data and the data frameworks, and then progressive producers like Adams Land and Cattle, as well as the farmers and ranchers that they're buying cattle from. So a lot of people have been involved, and we're a journey, and we're just getting started.
Well, obviously, sustainability is such a huge topic throughout agriculture right now, and it's great to see programs like this getting going. So let's look a little more at the nuts and bolts. How does the Climate Smart Beef program work exactly?
I think it'd be best for us to go back to the very beginning, right? Mm-hmm. And so the first part of this is producers participating in as we build this supply chain. And there's some key things that have to be done on the front end. One is they do have to be enrolled in a verified program. Today, that's under the Beef Care program, from where food comes from, and that becomes a foundation for enrollment into the brazen beef program that we've rolled out. The second thing is they have to agree to not sell their carbon rights. These travel with the animal as it goes through the supply chain. They have to share the relevant operational information to go into the accounting framework or calculator that we've developed to be able to just demonstrate how much of a reduction that we've had on overall greenhouse gases. And then they have to participate in on-farm audits. We take all of that from the very beginning. The animals move through the supply chain. And as they move through the supply chain, we continue to collect data on an individual animal basis, all the way up until the point in time that it goes onto the harvest floor. And then we calculate again that per animal basis with an individual electronic ID, what was the reduction back to the baseline. And so that's the operational nuts and bolts on it from beginning to end. I don't know if you want to add more to that too, Justin.
Well, you know, I think while we're pulling data out of the value chain, we're also ultimately going to be sharing data back with producers, so they understand how their animals are performing, both in the feedlot as well as on the rail. And we can get individual animal and carcass information back to that farm of origin as part of the program, as a value for producers in participating in programs like this. But you know, this is really all about how do we create a more resilient farm and ranch sector, both economically as well as environmentally. How do we make us more resilient during droughts or storms? And so I think what we're trying to do is how do we ultimately create value for producers to participate in programs like this?
Well, and it seems like a lot of great benefits for producers and the value there, and of course, helping with sustainability goals across the country, across the globe. I know you mentioned earlier some of the collaborators, EDF, the Nature Conservancy, Deloitte, Adams Land and Cattle, et cetera. What was their role in helping to kind of develop this program? Can you expand on that a little bit more?
I'll start with the first. It was really when we started working on this concept, we knew we needed to bring some critical thinkers along as well to think over our shoulder, to look over our shoulder and make sure our math was right, but also just help us think more holistically. And I think that was one of the reasons, we asked the Nature Conservancy to help us and where food comes from on the beef care standard. Initially, that was probably almost 3 years ago. And they began really bringing in the detailed criteria in the beef care standard relative to environment, such that it gave expectations around pasture management and having a pasture management plan, and bringing in the detail that standard that added value to that standard. And then EDF, we've worked with them for several years. Relative to row crops, and using their nitrogen balance focus, which is how do we optimize the use of nitrogen, which we know nitrogen is the largest driving factor or source of emissions in grain production. And so working with experts and stakeholders that could really give us their perspective and show that we as a food company and an important player in the broader food sector and agriculture sector, we're trying to bring progressive thinking into this conversation. And it's not just and we want to be transparent, that everybody can understand what we're doing and the impact that we're making, and how can we bring others along on the journey with us on this. Chad, you want to talk about the other people that were involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So then, we talk about, go back to where food comes from. They become not only just the beef care standard that Justin referred to, but also the boots on the ground that are able to collect the data and the information that's needed to go into the calculator. Adams Land and Cattle Company, as a feeding partner, they had the infrastructure in place to be able to track animals on the individual basis, all the way through from receipt to receival of the animal to the point in time that it delivers to us. With that, and in doing that and already having that in place, that really helped us to be able to tie the whole program together. And Justin referred to earlier, there's a value proposition, and with the Adams team being able to collect data as they can and do, and then put it into our calculator, the information that can flow back up that chain to the producer on not only carcass quality and carcass yield and those attributes, but also feeding performance and closeouts and how the animals did in the feed yard, to help that producer and their family be able to make better decisions, breeding, genetics, overall operational management, for long-term sustainability and profitability of their operation. And so bringing all of those together then allowed us to be able to get to the point that we could have this. And again, I've said it a couple of times, I'll say it again, on an individual animal basis.
Well, obviously, with the whole Climate Smart Beef program fitting into Tyson's broader sustainability goals, and I just think in general, it sounds like a lot of the same sustainability goals throughout agriculture, throughout the supply chain, when it comes to looking at our emissions, et cetera, et cetera. There's so much wrapped up in the sustainability conversation right now, but it sounds like Tyson, you guys are really taking a proactive approach here.
Really, we believe agriculture and beef production specifically can be part of the climate solution, and it's really about how do we characterize it as such, and bringing brazen beef to market as part of being able to demonstrate how beef can be sustainable and is sustainable, how practice change can result in reduced emissions that we can quantify on an individual rancher basis, and that our customers can participate in that as well. And so, we started this journey kind of a bit of a leap of faith, backed by data, that we could find a way to invest in our value chain, connect the dots with the data, and ultimately work with customers who have robust targets. But it's, the farmers and ranchers are at the root of all this, and we want to make sure that they understand the benefits of participating in climate smart beef, and specifically the branded program of Brazen.
I would add to that to say, myself growing up in production agriculture, beef industry, Justin, you too, and growing up in there, we have farmers and ranchers across this nation that have amazing practices in place. Now then, we have a mechanism to be able to help them tell their story and think about the broader beef industry from the very beginning, cow-calf, all the way to the point in time that it delivers to the consumer, and still be able to give the consumer beef that's juicy and flavorful and tender, and what our farmers and ranchers produce across this great nation. So it's our opportunity to help do our part in that.
Fantastic. Well, I know folks can learn more about Tyson's Climate Smart Beef program on the Tyson Foods website. The link is up on our website, markettalkag.com. And we appreciate the time today with that, Dr. Justin Ransom and also Chad Martin with Tyson. Thanks so much for joining us, gentlemen, and we appreciate it, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you.